Algebra 2, Lesson 17, Subscripted Variables and Angle Relationships. So beginning with subscripted variables, we're going to apply them into a substitution and elimination problem, and then what will later become a distance rate time problem. Not those yet, but will be later. Starting with the first one, I'm going to go ahead and use elimination because that's a little bit faster. I'll eliminate n sub o, or number of o, instead of n sub n. So if I take this first equation and I multiply it by negative 10, I can rewrite it as negative 10n sub n minus 10n sub o equals negative 600. And then I combine that with the bottom equation, 5n sub n plus 10n sub o equals 310. What happens is the n sub o's cancel. Negative 10nn plus 5nn becomes negative 5n sub n. And then negative 600 plus 310 gives me negative 290. From here I just divide each side by negative 5. Here the negatives cancel, and let me see here, 290 divided by 5. Whoop. That's going to go in 5 times, 25, 4, 40, and 8. So that's going to equal 58. So n sub n equals 58. So if that equals 58, I just plug that in here. 5 times 58 plus 10 times n sub o equals 310. So I don't have to multiply 5 times 58 because we just divided it. So 5 times 58 is going to give me 290 plus 10 n sub o equals 310. Subtract 290 from each side. That cancels, and that leaves me with 20. So 10 times n sub o equals 20. Divide each side by 10. N sub o equals 2. So n sub n equals 58. N sub o equals 2. So subscripted variables, you treat them just like a single term. Really easy. The next one. We have to use some difficult substitution on this one. So we're given this base equation, and then we're given these three truths afterwards. We start by substituting what we know into this base equation. So instead of writing Rm, I'm going to write 50 times Tm plus, instead of Rw, I'll write 70 Rw plus Tw equals 380. Okay, now here the problem is the Tm and the Tw, they're not the same term. Since they're subscripted differently, they're different numbers. Another way to read these would be rate of m times time of m plus rate of w times time of w. So time of m and time of w are not the same, but we do have this relationship, time of m plus time of w equals 5. So if I solve this for one of them, like for example Tm equals 5 minus Tw, I now have a value for time of m, and I can substitute that in here. So then I've got 50 times 5 minus time of w plus 70 times time of w equals 380. I've now got one unknown, and I can solve. So I distribute. 50 times 5 gives me 250 minus 50 Tw plus 70 Tw equals 380. These two combine as 20 Tw. And then I want to go ahead and subtract 250 from each side to eliminate that one. So then I get 20 Tw is equal to 130. Wait, is that right? Hold on. 0, 3, 1. Yep, 130. Divide each side by 20. And then I get Tw equals 13 over 2, or 6.5. So from here I just take 13 over 2 And I'm going to plug it into this equation right here. So 5 minus 13 over 2 is going to be equal to Tm. I turn this into a whole number, multiply it by a fraction of 2 over 2 to give me 10 over 2 minus 13 over 2 is equal to Tm. That's pretty easy. That's just going to become negative 3 over 2. So Tw equals 13 over 2, Tm equals negative 3 over 2. Last problem. Angle relationships. Okay, so we're given an angle problem. We have to solve for x and y. And in order to do this, we got to fill in some blanks. We could use that all the angles added together equals 360 theorem to solve this, and I think that'll work. We remember that vertical angles, or angles that are back-to-back, are equal. So if that is 40, this is also 40. And if that is 2x plus 5y, this is also 2x plus 5y. All right. So from here, there's two ways to do this. We could cut it into halves and say that all of this adds up to 180, or we can just add it all together and say all of it adds up to 360. I think if we do it in two halves, we can end up with some different equations. Or, I'm sorry, there's another way to do this. Using vertical angles, we could say that 20x plus 5y is equal to 110. Through vertical angle relationships. And then since this one doesn't have a value here, it would have to be equal to it. Actually, we could find this value here. We could use another straight angle. So we've got a straight angle here. If we were to cover this up, all of this would have to add up to 180. So instead of having to write 2x plus 5y, 110 plus 40 is 150. So 150 minus 180 would be 30. So this has to be 30 degrees. So then we can say that this is equal to 30 degrees. So then we've got 2x plus 5y equals 30 degrees. From here, we could eliminate if we change all of these signs. The 5y's would cancel. Then we get 18x equals 80. Divide by 18. And that reduces to 40 over 9. So we've got our x value. And lastly, we need to find our y. All we do is substitute that into one of these equations. So we could write 2 times 40 over 9 plus 5y equals 30. This is going to become 80 over 9. And we'll subtract that from each side. 9 times 30 would be 180 over 9. 180 minus 80 would be 100 over 9. And 100 over 9, let's see here, does that reduce? Oh wait, you know what? Before we try to reduce that, let's go ahead and divide each side by 5. We'll multiply this by 1/5. That will cancel to become 20. 20 over 9. So x would be 40 over 9. Y would be 20 over 9.